The environment overall is a really good environment to work in. So
It is. We have a great environment.
welcome back to Christina's Garage Gearhead in Training. I'm here in San Antonio, Texas at Vintage Air with Rick Love. I met him at SEMA this year and figured might as well ask him if I could come by. So thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to have you. I'm glad you came by to see us. We're excited to show you around our facility. We've got a whole lot of good people and a whole lot of neat processes to show you. I think a lot of people don't realize how much of the manufacturing we actually do in-house here. So it's always fun to kind of show people around, show them what we do, show them how a system goes from start to finish out the door, and more importantly, show them how excited our employees are to be a part of all of this. So yeah, we're excited to show you around.
Awesome, and we're going to start with research and development.
Start at the beginning.
I'm with Jason. We're starting in research and development, and I'm just so excited. Can you explain a little bit about like your background and what you do here at Vintage Air?
Sure thing. Yeah, if anything, I'm a newcomer for Vintage Air. I just started about less than a month ago. But my prior work history has done with hands-on with the automotive work, with fabrication and welding. The main goal for me too is, and being excited for what I do, is to create a product, try to do it right. It's not going to be done right the first time, but in a way you keep refining it and refining it till you hit the peak point of what's achievable and what can also be done within the numbers in a sense of mass production, so that it doesn't overly complicate the process of getting something from the raw material to now a final product. And somewhere in between there, you want to make sure they mesh really well. So that's the idea when it comes to this type of work that we do at Vintage Air. It's creating prototypes and making sure that it's not only just real, but it's also, you know, affordable in a sense, and it can be out to the public for anybody's needs. And with, you know, with AC systems, especially here in Texas, you can't go wrong with having a good AC system.
This is where everything starts.
Pretty much.
Is all in here. You guys come up with your creativity and plug it into the computers, and each one of you guys you're all working on different projects?
Yeah, right. Everybody gets at least some sort of like a foundation of what vehicle to focus on. We are very much a team effort. You know, the way I like to see it, and it's just what makes me very passionate being here, is like it's almost being part of the pit crew. You know, everybody has to do the role, and just to get the car in and get it out of to the race, you know.
So after this, we go in, you guys do the R&D, like the work on the actual
the vehicles, yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
Depending on what we produce here, I mean, it's a bit of a process out there. So if it's sheet metal, you know, they have a laser or plasma cutter table out there. So that file goes, you know, to the workers and any operators who do they execute it. Then if it's that sheet metal, it's going to be bent or have extra additions to it. Then they'll, you know, spot weld any sort of like, you know, I guess you could call them like captive nuts or any sort of just special features. You know, there's extra things that need to be welded or modified or bent. Then they'll be going to a different area of the building of the facility that has a sheet metal breaker. And some of that stuff is also automated. So the operator just grabs it, keeps it going, and has a basic rhythm going. So it doesn't really slow anybody down. When it's new product, I mean, we do kind of have to get one-on-one and personal and show them like, hey, this part needs to be flipped over and bent like this, so that they're aware. Because what they're seeing on the computer is one thing, but sometimes seeing it in real life is a big deal to help them to walk them through as well.
Thank you so much, Jason. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, yeah.
I'm definitely ready to go check out everything that they're doing downstairs.
Right now he's getting the sheet loaded on there, and then pneumatic lockdowns that'll lock that sheet in place.
And this is the next step after they had made all the molds.
The molds are all made on this. This is our Thermoform machine. This is where we actually vacuum form the cases and accessories for some of the systems, some of the SureFit systems, and even the universal systems that we manufacture here. This is one of the processes involved in that unit. We have some systems that are thermoformed, like you're going to see here, to make the molds, and we have other systems like our Gen 5s that are, as we discussed earlier, those are injection molded cases. So we have both of those here in the plant. You'll see more of that later.
There's so many different molds that you have that you plug them in depending on what you're making.
Vehicle specific, component part specific, and everything. Yeah, we have different, obviously, louver adapters and glove boxes and defrost adapters. Every vehicle is a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So we have literally hundreds of mold boards and thousands of molds to be able to manufacture all of basically the individual bespoke parts for all of these systems, these SureFit kits that we do. That's part of what makes these a bolt-in system for your vehicle, is all these different parts that are designed specifically for a certain vehicle.
That's cool. And then, so you said this is
It's a
an
thermoform
oven.
machine. That's right. That sheet's now going into the oven, and it's going to heat it up. And the oven's got its own, basically, computer control. So when the sheet reaches the proper temperature, it'll start to sag. It'll get soft, and that's ABS plastic. And the molds have been preheated.
And you said that some of these molds, like the previous ones that you made, were wood.
Yes.
And then now you've gone to...
Years ago, lower production molds, and we still have some wood molds that we made in-house, but all of the molds that we use now are either cast aluminum or billet aluminum. You see the plastics come out, and now we're gonna see the action take place. Molds go up into the plastic, vacuum comes on, pulls the sheet down over each one of the individual molds.
Wow.
Then the fans come on, we start cooling the plastic down to temperature, room temperature, so that it locks into the form.
And he's cutting them.
Cuts the sheets into a more manageable section for our next process in the procedure, which will be to actually cut, as you saw earlier, we'll cut the individual parts off the mold board and off the sheet of plastic. And that'll be the next step in the production. So that they'll score the plastic, and now you can just break it off. So you've got a smaller section that's easier to work with. It's interesting that there's so many things that come into play when you're doing this. All of these parts, all these molds have to be placed a specific distance apart depending on the size of the part, so that the plastic will pull uniformly on each side. Otherwise, if they're not placed properly or the molds aren't designed properly, you can get thinner areas as that plastic pulls, and then you get a weaker part or a part that won't hold up. So there's a lot of science that goes into actually designing the mold itself, and then where that mold is placed on the mold board. There's a whole lot to that. A lot of it just comes from experience over the years.
It makes a lot of sense because I was seeing how they're placed and how the other ones,
Yep.
You don't realize how much goes into it, especially since you're able to mass produce it now, but all of the work that's gotten you to this point where this process doesn't take as long now because you've done all the work to set up.
Exactly, that's where it comes in. And all of this plastic that's being taken off this mold board will then be recycled and sent back to the manufacturer. It's ground up into a powder, and then it gets recycled and made into new plastic sheets, so you don't have any waste.
That I keep picking that up, that there's so much more recycling being done than what you realize as well, that when you have more control over everything that you're doing because it's in-house, so you can be more efficient with the amount of product that you're using and stuff like that. That's really cool.
Right. That's a responsible thing to do, and also it's just, again, you don't want all that waste. You want to use everything you can. Now after the part's been, we've got a router table, and you see it's got a blade that sticks up there, and then he'll separate the individual part from the mold board. And our router has, you can see the laser on top of it. If a hand gets too close to that blade, it'll shut the blade off and lock it. So it's a safety interlock that helps keep our employees' hands safe.
I like that. It seems like you guys have a lot of safety features for sure.
We do. There's no more important part of anything we do than our employees. You know, we have such a great crew of people. They care about what they do. They're really excited about making the products they make. And our responsibility to them is to provide them not only a safe place to work, but a good place to work.
And you're saying very family, you have a lot of families that work here. You have a lot of women that work here, which is really cool. And it seems like the environment overall is a really good environment to work in. So
it is. We have a great environment. And again, like you pointed out, we have husbands and wives that work here. We have sons working here after their fathers. So we've got several generations together. So yeah, again, the strength of any company is always the people that are there, because that, again, you can have the best processes in the world, but it always comes down to the people that do it. Rolando, you want to drill one more of these?
Okay.
While it's on your fixture?
You see that?
You've seen this process before, Christina. This is that Gen 4 case. It's already been molded, it's been cleaned, and it's been separated. Now the next step in the process is to have all the holes added to it that need to be there for mounting and for assembly. So we have all of these fixtures that are unique to this, and they'll drill each hole. Fixtures guarantee every one of those holes is in the exact same place every time. And once all the fixture holes are done, the unit holes are done, they'll go back and add all the interior insulation foam before it goes to the next process, which is the actual assembly process. So this is kind of the first part of the assembly process of the system, of the unit.
Well, I like how you mentioned too that there's different drills. That way you're not having to switch the drill bit. You're able to just grab what you need to do it and make it, you can able to get it done much quicker.
Yep, you just step through the process. And again, it keeps you from making a mistake by using the wrong size drill bit. They know they go through the same process each time. And again, that ensures that you get the right holes in the right size in the right place.
So what is that hole for?
That's for the coil feeder tube.
Oh,
the AC
okay.
coil feeder tube. And they have actually a dimple that's formed into the mold that centers that drill bit to be in the right place every time. So even though it's not in the fixture there, there's basically a pilot hole that centers that hole saw.
So he knows exactly where it goes.
And then he'll clean all the holes up before it goes to the next stop.
Okay.
I think it's obvious to you as we go through the procedures here. You can see our people are really proud of what they do.
I
mean,
love
they
that.
take a lot of pride in what they do, and that's really cool.
And they do a good job.
And they do a really good job.
Thank you so much.
The U-bends that were made from that machine, they made the U-bends. We inserted these U-bends into the fins that were punched in our fin punch machine. So all of that is done, and then once we've got our little coil slab here, we're going to go into our expander, and the expander will go into each one of these tubes and expand it out so that you get, see how it's all expanded out? You've expanded the copper out so that you've got a mechanical connection between the fin and the tube. Tight mechanical connection means good heat transfer. So you get all your good heat transfer on this. And then we'll take this coil slab and we'll go into our coil assembly portion where we'll add all our U-bends to complete the circuiting on the coil.
And when we were seeing that machine work to make these U-bends, they put them into, what is this block called?
This is called a slab. This is a coil slab.
Put it into the coil slab, and then the extender makes sure that
expander.
Expander so that it fills up all of that space.
Exactly. It expands these U-bends so that you get a good contact with each one of these fins. Heat transfer always works where you basically have either a liquid or a gas inside a tube, transfer the heat to the tube transfers the heat to the fin, and then whether it's water, whether it's air, that's where you get your heat transfer as it flows across the fins. Okay. So that tight connection ensures that you're getting good heat transfer or cool transfer basically from the tube to the fin and then the air.
And the heating system is a similar idea
exactly.
with those copper
Any heat
pieces.
exchanger works the same way, whether it's a hot to cold or cool, it's the same way. One of the parts of our vintage air systems that we're really proud of as well is the fact that we do everything we can for these bolt-in SureFit kits to make it look like it came from the factory that way. That it has that original equipment look to it, an OEM look as we call it, right? And part of what makes that happen is all of the hard lines that we can produce to go from the condenser through either your firewall or your core support so that you have a hard line, and again, it retains that OEM look. So we've got hundreds of patterns, and then we've got CNC benders that take straight tubes and turn those straight tubes into whatever line we need. So the orders come in, each one has a part number on it, description of what it is, and that program will go into our CNC bender, and we'll take that straight line and bend it into these, and again, give you that OEM look on our systems.
And that was one really big thing that you had mentioned, is that when you order your unit, everything is made custom for you for your order. It's not made and then you buy it, that's already made. It's specifically made for you and your order.
Exactly. And that allows the customer to customize things if they need to. One of the greatest things about building a resto mod or building a hot rod or restoring a car like you're doing with your Camaro, if you want to make some little changes, we have the ability to do that. We can add some custom touches, whether it be a different control panel, whether it be different louvers, something like that to personalize the system to you. So each order as it comes in is assigned a number that matches up to your order, and each particular part of our assembly and our manufacturing is geared towards a single order.
Wow, that's cool.
This is kind of cool to watch them put the return bends on there.
The flames are green. Does that mean they're like extraordinarily hot because it's green? I've only seen blue.
That gives you the proper temperature. The color of the flame will tell you the proper temperature for his brazing. See, actually taking that coil slab we looked at earlier, and now you're taking a slab and you're turning it into a functional coil for your system. Basically making one path for the refrigerant and for the heater for your coolant.
Wow.
And they have a pattern so they know where every one of them goes, so it's the same again every time. They work off a sample. Of course, they make hundreds of these, so they know how each particular one goes. And once they get the return vents put on it, then we'll put the feeder tubes on, and that feeds both the refrigerant and the heat, so you end up with a completed coil. And this is actually for our Gen 2 compact system. And you see you've got the feeders on here. These are your 2 heat. That's for your coolant. And this is your inlet for the AC refrigerant, and this is going back to the compressor. So, and then all the circuiting is done for that to go through the coil.
Wow.
And once they finish, you'll see they've got the caps on them. These are all charged with nitrogen. And then once they're charged, we take them over here, dunk them in our tank while they're charged. So if there's any leaks, you'll see the bubbling on it. And then we blow them out. They go into our oven to make sure all the water is removed from it. And then on the shelf. And they'll sit on the shelf for over 24 hours before they go to the next stage of production. And our production engineers will check and make sure that the charge is still there so that there's not any small leak or anything like that. Once they go through that, they're charged again, checked at the end of the line. And then when the customer gets it, when he takes off the cap, he'll hear the nitrogen escape, so you know you still have a leak-free coil.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. That's cool.
You saw with our CNC machines, you saw the first operation in making a custom louver. We talked about custom parts that can go with your system. You saw how we basically turned a bar of aluminum into the beginnings of a custom louver. Once it came out of that first operation, now we've bead blasted it to kind of get the look we want. It'll go into our lathe, and it'll come out of the lathe with a 3-bar custom louver. And this is just the ball to it. It obviously has a bezel that goes with it. But really cool part, kind of upgrade the look of your dash.
And I didn't, when we were looking at this initially, I did not realize that the end result would be, it would look so different. It's really neat to see all the different stages. And we're seeing there's a lot of hands-on work that people are doing. And you're also utilizing computerized machines as well. And it seems like a really good marriage between the two, that certain things can be well done just by hand, while others, it's like, okay, well, you're bringing in the machining to be able to do those things as well.
Everything's programmed, so it's the same every time.
That's awesome.
But it still depends on the operator to make sure things are set up properly.
All right, you guys, this is my first attempt at a voiceover. I don't know the names of all these things, and it was really cool to listen to Rick and his professional explanation, and the best I can do is calling it this and that thing. This, I believe, is a CNC machine, and it was really cool to watch it cutting out all the pieces, and then having them bring it out and them basically come out exactly how they're supposed to be shaped. And then in this following clip, this gentleman is actually using another machine to shape it more so to what they want it to be to function properly. And in this back room here, they put all of these pieces onto these metal racks and they lower them into this liquid that cleans them. And then they're able to take the water off of it and put it into an oven, and just the process in general and how much time and care it takes for them to go through all these steps was just absolutely amazing to me. And I'm hoping that I can get you guys a better follow-up in the future. This is the final assembly for the Gen 5 injection molded SureFit kit. This is going to be the future of the vintage air cooling and heating systems. Rick was showing me how they go through the assembly process and some of the really cool features of the Gen 5 that differentiates it between the previous models. At the very beginning of this video, we saw the Thermoform molding, which is different than this version here. And he's showing me how they go through and test each unit, and where the nitrogen, you see how they were sealed off from earlier in this video, and they go through and put everything together so that it can go straight to your home. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I will be completely honest, I did not charge one of my Rode wireless transmitter things and I had issues with the sound. So I really hope you loved this video. I really enjoyed myself. There's so many things that I learned while doing this, having this whole trip today, and luckily Rick and everybody else here was super patient and really helpful. I am already planning to come back and maybe do some follow-up footage that you guys might not be able to see because of the sound, but you guys are awesome. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.